So today we're going to be learning a lot about infants. The first thing we're going to be working on is holding a baby, because that's probably really important because everyone holds babies, especially moms. You always want to make sure that you're holding it right. You don't want to give it something like shaken baby syndrome. So what you want to do is, I have one of our Real Care babies with me, but you always want to give it head support, because if you don't, its neck isn't strong and it'll just fall back, and that's not good because that could cause neck problems in the future. But you always want to put that baby's head in the crook of your elbow right here, and then you want to bring the rest of your arm all the way down around its legs, and then bring the other one back just for the extra support, so it looks like this. And you never want to shake the baby too hard, because then it could get shaken baby syndrome, which is basically like a whiplash shaking motion that causes the brain to hit the skull, if not once, multiple times. And it could cause veins to break, and it will swell, and it just gives a lot of head trauma, and it's not good for the baby. There are a lot of ways to prevent shaken baby syndrome, which is just be gentle when you're rocking, picking up, or pushing a baby in a stroller or in a swing. And you always want to be patient with your baby. You never want to, if you get impatient with your baby, ask for help, because you don't want to get angry and then just hurt your baby when you didn't mean to. And going along with that, when you're impatient, you're being impatient because your baby's crying all the time. There's 5 basic ways to comfort a crying baby. Try feeding it. It could be hungry, you never know. Burp it, because if you had just fed it, it could need to be burped, because they swallow a lot of air when they're eating, and burping really helps with that. Holding it and rocking it is always good comfort for babies. They might need to change their diaper, because dirty diapers would obviously be uncomfortable, and I would cry too. And then always check for a fever, because if babies have fevers, that could mean so many different things, but you always want to check. Now we're going to work on feeding positions. And it's basically exactly like holding the baby before, with its head in the crook of your elbow, holding it like this. Except you take that right arm, or your left, whichever one the baby's head is in, and you want to take that and use the bottle, and use that hand for the bottle, and then you just feed it like this. And then every few ounces, almost all bottles have ounce measurements on the sides of them, and you want to make sure that you burp them every few ounces. And burping rids the body of air while the baby is drinking formula, and it sucks on pacifiers and stuff, and it just swallows all that air that's not good for you. So burping, it really gets all of that extra stuff out of there that's not good for the baby. And there's 2 basic ways to burp a baby. One is sitting upright and holding your baby against your chest like this, and then you just want to pat it gently on the back and let it burp, and you'll know when it burps, I promise, you'll hear it. And then the other one is not as safe, but you hold the baby on your lap, and you want to hold its back and make sure its head is up. And you also want to put your hand right here, but you don't want to choke it. You just want to hold it lightly, like you're resting its chin in the palm of in the crook of your hand right here. And then you want to gently pat their back like that. That's not as safe, but it's also an option, and it works. And once again, you'll hear the baby burp, so you'll know when you're done. We're going to talk about safe bottle feeding practices. Safe bottle feeding practices are also a major thing. Sometimes parents just prop up the bottle on like a blanket, and that's not safe, because the baby could really easily choke if it doesn't want any more. And that's one of the major ones, is do not prop up the bottle with a blanket. Like, say you're holding it and you lay the baby down on a blanket on the floor, and then you put a blanket under the bottle and prop it. That's not good, because then they can't ever stop it. Formula should always be lukewarm or cold, and you should never heat it in the microwave. If you want to make formula now and then save it for later, you should always keep it in the refrigerator, because if it's warm, that will cause bacteria to grow in it, and the coldness this prevents that. And do not ever reuse formula that's already in the bottle and the baby already drank from it, because the baby's saliva will cause bacteria to grow in that bottle, and you don't want them to be drinking that bacteria. There's another way of feeding, which is obviously breastfeeding. So the benefits of that is it saves the family money on formula, bottles, etc. Breast milk is sterile and is already ready immediately, so there's no bacteria in it at all. Mom's immunity to certain things is passed to the baby, so say the mom doesn't get the flu or something, or it's not allergic to something, the baby won't be either. And the baby rarely chokes because they have control of the flow of milk. When it comes to bathing an infant, you really don't want to give them baths right away. Sponge baths are the safest, because in a sponge bath you don't immerse the baby in the water, like it's not fully covered in the water. You usually just put it in like a little bath thing you can get them at like Walmart, and then you take a sponge or a wet washcloth and you just wipe the baby down. And sponge baths are recommended until 3 weeks after birth, and then you can start giving them baths a little more and then a little more until they can take full baths. Next we're going to talk about SIDS. SIDS stands for Sudden Infant Death Syndrome, and that is a condition in which sleeping babies die without warning and for medically unexplained reasons. SIDS is a part of a broader area of it's called sudden unexpected infant death. When it comes to sleeping, there's a lot of safety risks with infants because they sleep all the time, but they don't have the muscle memory or any of the strength to hold their certain parts of their body up into where they can sleep safely by themselves. A big risk when it comes to babies sleeping is SIDS, which is sudden infant death syndrome. It's a condition in which babies just die without warning or for a medically unexplained reason. Ways to prevent SIDS: babies should always sleep on their back with no blankets. You don't want the baby on their stomach because at first they cannot hold their head up because, they can't hold its head up. This is a good demonstration, but real babies can't hold their head up because they don't have any neck muscle, and they could have their head on the ground if they're sleeping on their stomach. If babies are sleeping on their stomach, their head, they can't hold it up, and so their chin will be pushed down and it'll close their airway and they'll stop breathing. So that's a good way to prevent it. Babies should always be laid on a flat surface with no blankets, and the room should always be pretty average, like not too hot or not too cold, because that could also be hard because babies can't have blankets, so they can't be too hot or too cold. Okay, so you want to make sure that everything's like as ready as you can get it before you put the baby in. And then you want to put it in there gently, and then put the shoulder straps on and make sure they're over the shoulders. And then you want to buckle the bottom. And then get the shoulder straps and then tighten it as however you need it tightened. And then you should be ready for the car. Before you put your baby in, you always want to anchor in your base, and there should always be 2 hooks down here, and your seat should say if there is one or not, like right here on both sides. And you want to bring it through the bottom of these loops and then hook it onto those hooks. And then you want to make sure that this is tight. And stabilize it. And then you want to take your seat belt and loop it through there too. You want to make sure that your baby's seat is stable and safe for it in the car. And then you also want to tighten that too. And once you have that tight, you want to take your baby and put the front in first, and then push the back down, and you should hear those clicks, and then you should be good, ready to go. So you've already watched how to put the car seat in, but there's also we also need to talk about how important they are. Car seats are really important for infants because they are much less likely to die in an accident when they are rear-facing in those car seats because it has so much support on all of the sides and they're anchored in so well. And babies and infants, they're not strong enough to support their neck like I just said before, and they need the car seat to do that for them when they're sitting there, because if they didn't have a car seat, they would just be sitting in that back seat and they wouldn't be able to sit there because their head would go like this and they would be lopsided and they're too small to fit into those seat belts.